Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and I was always told I had a voice radio, so today it is my delight to be able to bring you another new GX. It's Zoroark GX, and I'm going to put my cards on the table, get it, right at the beginning here. This is a really, really good card. So, starting off, it is a dark Pokemon, which means you're not really hitting anything for weakness. Maybe one day Lunala gets really big. Other than that, weakness is not something you're going to be hitting for. Sorry about that. And actually, as far as weakness goes, your weakness to fighting is not ideal. We're expecting Darkrai to be very popular in the near future. Drampa already is, which means people are going to be playing fighting Pokemon to take out Darkrai and Drampa. They're going to end up taking out Zoroark as well. Not to mention that Marshadow is coming in Burning Shadows. The ability allows you to copy any attack of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile if you've got the correct energy on, which means that any deck can just tech in Marshadow to beat this. So weakness, bad on both fronts. But there is a resistance to Psychic here, which especially with Garbodor running around is pretty tasty. And 210 HP, I mean for stage 1 GXs it's generally 200 or 210. 210's pretty nice. Now most cards have an ability or an attack, or maybe even both, that you like. Zoroark here has a good ability, a good attack, and a good GX attack, and that's why I'm quite so enthusiastic about it. And also, what did Zoroark do to get such love in the Pokemon trading card game? We're going to talk at the end about the existing Zoroark, and honestly, ladies and gentlemen, they good. Now, the ability here, discard a card from your hand and draw 2. That is immense, ladies and gentlemen, and we assume that stacks. We're not told that it doesn't at the moment, although as with all Japanese cards, the translation could change when it comes over here. That means that you could potentially have 4 Zoroark GX on the field and be drawing an extra 8 cards per turn. Now this is better than something like Octillery or Oranguru. Oranguru maybe, but I prefer to say Oranguru. Sorry about that. And the reason is it doesn't matter about hand size. Octillery, you can only draw 2 cards if you've got a hand size of 3, and then 3 cards if you've got a hand size of 2, and so on. You've got to lower your hand size. Same thing with Shaman. How many times have you played a tool that you didn't really want to play? Or attached an energy that you didn't really want to attach? Just so you could draw an extra card with Shaman. Benching Pokemon you don't want to bench. Well, that's not an issue with Zoroark, ladies and gentlemen. You always get the extra draw. You always get the extra 2 cards here, and that is brilliant. I suppose you always get the extra 2 cards, as long as there's something in your hand you're willing to discard. Speaking of the discarding can be a pain, but here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to use the ability. There's no requirement that you use this every turn. And let's face it, a lot of the time you can make this work for you. Now, it may well be rotated by the time this comes out. This is coming out in Shining Legends, I should have said. Coming out in October as its own set, not unlike Generations. And we're expecting Versus Seeker to be gone. But of course, when it's rotated, it'll still be legal and expanded. Discard a supporter card from your hand, reuse it with Versus Seeker, jobs are good 'un. Playing a water deck, discard an energy and reuse it with Aqua Patch. Playing dark decks, well, Darkrai GX has an ability that allows you to put it on the bench from the discard and attach a darkness energy from the discard. So here, and let's not forget that Zoroark is a dark Pokemon that uses darkness energy, so, you know, little bit of synchronicity there. You can use this to discard your Darkrai or Dark Energy. And another one that's probably going to be rotated, but, you know, expanded. Vespiquen needs Pokemon in the discard. Zoroark can discard them. That's cool. Now, the main attack here is also really, really good. 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in play. It's basically Raichu's Circle Circuit attack, except it also does 20 for the active. Raichu only does it for the bench. And this is just for a double colourless energy, which means you fill your bench double colourless energy 120. And let's not forget Charizard GX, who does 70 for free energy. Boo! Now, the obvious thing to say here is Skyfield, but of course we're expecting that to be rotated by the time this card comes out. But then again, in Expanded, or if Skyfield remains or gets reprinted, that's 9 Pokemon you can have in play. That's 180 for a double colourless energy. That's ridiculous. Now, in terms of numbers here, 120 is good, because you're 2-hit KOing anything other than your Stage 2 GXs with 250 HP. Think Metagross. The annoying thing here is you add a Choice Band and a Kukui, you go up to 170, and really it's 180 we're looking for. Very few GXs have 170 or less, and some EXs don't. Whereas 180, you're getting Drampa, you're getting Tauros, etc, etc. Much, much better. Hey-ho. It's still a really good attack. You're still doing 120 for a double colourless energy before you add any extra damage. Now, this isn't actually quite as good as Mind Jack from the Black and White Zoroark, but it's far more reliable. Your opponent can always not bench Pokemon to try and reduce the amount of damage done with Mind Jack. Well, here it's completely up to you, so like with Raichu, this is really quite nice. I'm a huge fan of this already. Amazing ability which will see a huge amount of play. Really efficient attack, and let's not forget that 120 will one-hit KO a Garbodor. So you're still doing a whole bunch of damage here. I wish you could get big one-hit KOs with this, and with Skyfield you can, without it you can't, but it's still an incredibly efficient attack for a double colourless energy. And then we get to the GX attack. 2 Darkness Energy, and it is Darkness Energy, not Dark, as often as I do get that wrong. You get to copy an attack of one of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Any attack from any of their Pokemon. And for those of you asking me on Twitter today, yes, this does include GX attacks, but remember, when you copy a GX attack, just like with Zoroark Break, you also copy the effect that it's 1 GX attack per game. So you can copy a GX attack, but only if you haven't already used a GX attack this game. This is amazing. It's just like Zoroark Break, or indeed Black and White Zoroark, seeing a pattern here. But it's any Pokemon, not just the defending Pokemon. And no, you do not need the requisite energy. Way back in Black and White, we were using Zoroark to copy Reshiram's Blue Flare without discarding the fire energy. Nowadays, we've been using this to copy Drampa's Berserk attack for 1 energy, Tapu Bulu's Nature's Madness for 1 energy. I could keep going, but you get the point here. This is a ridiculous attack, ladies and gentlemen. And there's so many options here, I can't even go through them all. Your opponent now has to be careful of every single Pokemon they ever put on the bench, because you can copy that attack up until you've used your GX attack. One example I'll give you here, let's say you're playing against Zoroark Drampa. Well, Zoroark Break's got quite a high HP, and you can't really copy that many good attacks on it. But all you need to do is copy Drampa's Berserk from the bench, and then you can be doing 150 and getting a 1-hit KO on Zoroark Break, as long as you've got a damaged Pokemon on your bench. Just to be really clear about the ruling, I'm not 100% on this, but when you use Zoroark GX's attack to copy a GX attack, that is all 1 attack, so I'm sure you could. I feel confident in saying you could use Zoroark GX to copy, for instance, Tapu Bulu's GX attack, and then that's just your 1 for the game, because it's copying Tapu Bulu's GX, which is your GX. So I believe you could. We will, as always, have to wait for an official ruling, but I feel fairly confident. Now let's remember, of course, that we've got Zoroarks that are good already. Now, we don't know if they're going to be rotated. No one knows what the rotation's going to be. These are going to be on the bubble. We'll have to wait and see. But regular Zoroark has got a brilliant ability that lets you jump in the active, and the aforementioned Mind Jack attack for a double colourless that's really good. They both evolve from Zoroark, so you could play a mixture here and evolve into whichever one you need at the time. And let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, that Zoroark and Zoroark GX have different names, So you can play up to 4 of each. But because of that, you cannot break evolve Zoroark GX. Zoroark break evolves from Zoroark, not from Zoroark GX. So you can break evolve the regular, but not the GX. But you could, for instance, have 4 regulars, all of which are break evolved, and 4 GXs in your deck. But of course, remember, you've only got 4 Zoruas, so you've got to choose 4 in combination. I hope that makes sense. We're already seeing Zoroark be really good with Drampa. It's got the same typing as Darkrai, which is going to help in the future. The ability is utterly, utterly great. The main attack is good, and there are so many options with the GX attack. I'm doing it, ladies and gentlemen. This is a 5 Wassy card. I really, really like this card, ladies and gentlemen. It is great. Of course, if you disagree with me, that's what the comment section is there for. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at the Wassy. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Make sure you like this video. Check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. And if you want to support PTCG Radio, you can do so at our newly launched Patreon page, patreon.com/PTCGRadio. The most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.